Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming and not going to that other thing in San Francisco. No one's worried about that anyway. Yeah, true. So this... So this is me on a Monday night. So all I wanted was a laugh, really. So that's me, Keir. You're up now. The second talk. Yeah, I'm talking tonight, and this was a talk that I originally gave back at London's Calling 2017, I think, called Browser Dev Tool Debugging Like a Ninja Unicorn Ninja Cat Rockstar. Something nice, catchy title.
Can you go back to the first slide? I forgot to take a photo.
Yeah, it's these people up here, please.
Our other sponsor.
Yeah. So hello everybody. I'm Todd Halfpenny. As Keir said, I'm one of the organisers here at the London Doug, and I'm also one of the organisers for the past 2 years of London's Calling community event. If you didn't go or you couldn't get a ticket, make sure you book early for next year, and you can find me at Todd Halfpenny pretty much everywhere. I work for a company called MobileCaddy. I'm the chief mobile technical architect there, and essentially we mobilise Salesforce in a way that you can't do with just the I don't know what it's called nowadays, Salesforce Mobile, My Salesforce, or Salesforce One. So we have an application development framework basically for taking critical apps and mobilising them. And you can find us here. That's all the sales pitch. Before I get to the next slide, like every good demo, especially those at places like ChowDX, I've got someone running my demos for me, so I don't need to be tapping the key, so I can be very animated, hopefully not spill my beer. And this is other Todd. I'm all here ready for the demo, so he's fairly reliable. He does make a lot of typos, so you have to bear with him. And he's got some beautiful Minnie Mouse wallpaper. So you can tell this guy's got style. The goals for this talk this evening, actually really there's just the one, and that is for you to take one tip away from tonight that you didn't know beforehand. Last time I ran this talk, there was one tip, and only one person knew the tip I thought they wouldn't know. So I'm going for the full scratch one today. So let's get started. As I said, I originally did this talk at London's Calling. I wrote this up on my blog. Here, I thought I'd repurpose it. This is obviously no good for tonight. So Todd, if you could open up the control panel and then type document. It's very slow. Document.design mode for me into the console here equals on. Yeah, that's it. And then go back to our web page. This is my blog. What happens now is all the text on the page actually becomes instantly editable. So I can just delete that. Boom. Salesforce Doug. Yeah. That's perfect. Good work, Todd. And we need to retitle this as well because it's an awful title. Although it's got a great graphic. And let's see what the post-talk write-up looks like. All right. Who am I to argue with other Todd? So that's pretty good, and we can turn this editing off again instantly by doing document.design mode equals off. Why is this kind of useful? Well, I suppose if you're building an app that or a website that needs to have I don't know, ridiculously long titles like this, you might break your layout. So this is a good way of instantly checking without having to create pretend content and stuff. You can just do it in the browser or in front of people while they're sitting at your desk, hanging over your shoulder like some people in organisations do. That's pretty good. Document.design mode. Who knew about document.design mode? No, there's two of you this time. I was hoping. The last one was Richard Clark, and he's now in San Francisco, so I thought I'd get away with it. But you've caught me out. Okay. So
Maybe they saw your presentation last time.
That's true. That was in the original as well. So, as I was saying, Todd's not very good at typing. So if he can try. No, delete that, Todd. We don't want that. Delete that, please. Yeah, he's not very good at typing, and also if you're doing this repeatedly, it becomes very boring and prone to errors, and you don't want to be doing that. something you can do then in the browser tools is if you go up to the Sources tab, you get this snippets area here, and you can create snippets. And then you can just right-click on them and run. And here, I've created one called Design Mode, and that's basically run that command for me. And I can edit it again, I can rerun it, and it's turned it off again. That's pretty good. I'll have a quick look at what is in my snippet up here. This is essentially just some JavaScript. It's a very dodgy if-else. So don't critique me on it, but it kind of works, for the demo at least. But you can put all sorts of things in these snippets. Let's say, for example, you're writing, back in the day, a Visual Force form that had, I don't know, 50 inputs, and you're testing it, and you keep trying to come up with new company names or new contact names and whatever. You could just write a snippet that adds those values in and just press your button. So very handy for that kind of thing, repetitive tasks. So I tried this out with, I don't know if you recognise this. This is the app that you build during one of the trailheads for Lightning. It's basically an expenses input form. And I didn't want, when I was writing this, I didn't want to have to keep inputting pretend expenses because your imagination runs a bit dry after a while. And so I decided to write a snippet for this. In fact, I created two because I wanted to check some validation at the time. So I've got one here called Lightning Camping Form Invalid, rolls off the tongue, and a Lightning Camping Form Valid. So let's run the invalid one, and I'll show you what it does. So it's just populated my form with some values, and you can see that I've got an amount of ABC, which is, of course, invalid. That's meant to be a numerical value. And if I run the valid one, is that big enough? Can everyone see that? I was worried it was going to be too small. And now I've got this, it's only on its face. And so I run the valid one, and now it puts some numerical value there. And I can click Create Expense now down the bottom, but, oh, we've got expense name can't be blank error coming up. Yeah, definitely, it says that. Thanks, Todd. I'm going to run it again to make sure. Yeah, so Princess Leia, she's buying some phasers. It's pretty good. But my form is not processing, and it's coming up with this error. And lo and behold, Locker service doesn't allow me to input values into DOM elements due to Locker service. I also can't do things like call focus on inputs or other events, all kind of hidden away behind Locker service. I spent an entire Sunday trying to break it, and I couldn't. My girlfriend's well cheesed off with me. I wasn't looking after the kids at all. I couldn't do it. Tools out there, I think, do this. That's what I was hoping Richard Clark would be here, because Provo, I think, do this, and I don't know how they do it. So if anyone knows, help me, because I'd like to use it again. And that's snippets. So, yeah, you can use them for all sorts of things, but not filling in Lightning forms, unfortunately. The next up is the Elements tab in the Dev toolbar. This is an app that was built with, so it's a MobileCaddy application. So other Todd here is building a mobile app. Because you see, he's building it in the browser, it's far too big. With DevTools open, he can actually shrink his screen right down, so smaller than you could your normal Chrome window. Right down. So he gets an idea that his CSS is working, his layouts are working in here. But we can go a step further than that, actually. Up the top, we've got this. Let's make it really big. Yeah. Toggle device toolbar button. By clicking that now, I get an extra toolbar at the top of my Chrome window that allows me to define resolutions, and also have some predefined resolutions for devices. So this is an iPhone 5, and that gives me a good idea that all my CSS is working, everything's looking good. You can see the app works quite well. Let's change it to make sure it's good. So we're going to try an iPhone 6 now. Yeah. Smashing, and you get all the touch gestures and everything as well, which is really handy. And this is quite nice if you're wanting to show somebody, maybe a product owner, a stakeholder, what it might look like. And you go a step further by adding some device frame around it, which is if you're wanting to give someone an idea, this is what your product's going to look like. It's a real selling tool. Absolutely fantastic. Not all of the built-in devices come with device frames, but a lot of them do. And you see, I'll go through the app, and it kind of works as it would do on a phone. You can have tablets and iPads and all sorts of stuff in there as well. So that's quite handy. The next thing that you can do in the Elements tab that I wanted to show you that I didn't know before I originally read this talk, was on the right-hand side here, you've got the elements tree. So this is all the HTML markup node listing. And you can see on the left-hand side, I've got an input form that's got a lot number, an expiry date, price, and then this other thing. And as I hover over them, I can see the markup node that's currently in focus. And that's quite handy. And what I didn't know you could do is when you're clicking on these nodes in here, you can then drag them in the elements tree and actually live reorganize your markup and the HTML updates. So now we've got kind of my form on my left is adjusting as I just drag and drop these things in here in live. So you can imagine if you were sitting with a product owner and they said, oh yeah, I like this registration form, but why can't we have, well, yeah, let's move this button that side and that button this side, or these fields around. And you can do all this without having to kind of do any real coding, upload to Salesforce, I don't know, all that gubbins. Yes, that's another really handy thing to do if you're just kind of wanting to quickly demonstrate to somebody. Maybe you're sitting there with a UI designer. It's quite a handy tip. Right. Next up, oh yeah, this is also brilliant. You can, if you've done this and you say, oh no, that wasn't how I wanted it, you can just Control Z and Control Y to undo and redo these drag and dropping in the Elements tab. So I just, yeah, I mean, on a Mac you might, I don't know, command something odd. I think you've got to pay £5 or something every time you hit the Mac key, possibly. And so you can undo and redo, and that's the same as if you were changing any styles with the styles elements, and also if the sources. So you say you're adding some console lines. I'm talking like this is completely normal. So within the Lightning world, obviously, there's a lot more JavaScript involved, so this becomes much more prominent to your workflow. What else can we do in here, Todd? He's got something else he wants to do. Oh yeah, this is neat. So this here, right? I mean, I'm colourblind. I've got really bad vision generally. I don't know why I haven't got my glasses on. But this no charge is really hard to read. Right, I'd say it's quite. The contrast is pretty poor. If I click on this node, and it's highlighted here now, in my styles, I can find out this is where I'm setting the colour for that. Here, and if I click on it, I get my colour picker, and down here I get a warning sign, and this is Google telling me that this is a bad contrast based upon standard accessibility ratings. And as I click around, you can see it's turned to a tick, and obviously on the right-hand side, it's become much more visible. And as you click on, you can actually get a double tick. I don't know if you can get triple tick.
Goals.
Yeah. Have a go. Yeah, goals for this year. Goals for 2018. Get a triple tick on the contrast thing. So that's really handy as well. And in fact, in this case, with this app, I wanted to send this back to. Wanted to send it back to UI design. Say, hey, look, this is no good. So how can I send them this? They haven't got this app yet. Up here in the thing, I can say, oh yeah, capture a screenshot. And what this will do now is it will actually create a PNG file for me, download that, and I can open it up at the bottom. And it's not only copied what I've got on my screen, but it's also copied the device frame as well. So yeah, if you want to send it to somebody in marketing or a tester, say, yeah, this is what it looks like on, hey, works on my computer, send them this, they'll love that. And I could also send, or other Todd can also send the UI designer, hey, this is what it looks like with a good contrast. So we're going to set it in our tab now. But I don't want to send them the whole thing. Maybe it's like a massive web page. I just want to send them this particular chunk of the UI and say, this is how it should look. What we can do with with a node selected, so our markup piece that we want to send them selected, in the command palette, I can say, hey, type node screenshot. And I can say, capture the node screenshot. And this will then download me a PNG image file as well. But it'll only be of the chunk of markup that I currently had selected. And again, this is really handy if you're wanting to send assets to people to quickly verify how things are working. So that was the Elements tab. Showed the responsive window and mobile emulation, really. And with that, you can also apply network speeds. So you can say, oh, I want this to run off a 2G, 3G, I don't know, whatever connection. Drag and drop in the element tree to reorganize things, undo and redo. across tabs is really, really useful. The contrast helper as well. That, I think, was only in Chrome 64. So who knew about the contrast helper? Yes! we've done it. That's brilliant. Okay, so there we go. I mean, you might not find that helpful, in which case I failed, but I'll take that as a goal. And screenshots as well. I think they're just hugely valuable when you're wanting to supply assets to people very quickly. I've got one last thing to demonstrate from the Elements tab of the DevTools. And this is, I think, if you can see as I click, I get this $0 after the currently selected node. In fact, if you highlight over here, use $0 in the console, it says. So if I go down to the console and type $0, what I get down here is an expandable node tree again of just that particular node. And you can see it's highlighting on the left-hand side. So even though it's kind of outside of my elements piece. So $0 is the currently selected node element. And what you can actually do is you could type in here copy brackets $0, and that will give you in your clipboard, clipboard? Is that what it's called? Yeah, clipboard, the HTML markup for that particular node. So, yeah, just snazzy stuff, man. I love it. Oh, yeah, this is good. I didn't think I was going to be able to show you this. Apex in the JavaScript dev console, the ability to view your Apex code, save it locally as a file system, and edit it and rerun it. No, we're a little bit off that. Maybe it'll come. Maybe it will come. I don't know. That live debugger. Did you see the debugger thing? Scale. That looks nasty, but no, not yet. So let's jump over to the Sources tab next. What are we doing in the Sources tab? Oh yeah, the first thing, if we're going to start doing code rather than just random JavaScript things and dragging and dropping, we need to make ourselves look a bit more codey. So if I Control P to open up the command palette and type dark theme. Yeah. This is it. I should have brought my leather jacket and some matrix things down. But now we're kind of, I feel like a hacker probably. I need to go live in my mum's basement now. That's just a quick tip thing. What I've got here is an expense form again. This is from the Trailhead. Actually, this is, I'll be honest, about 1.5 years old, but I have a problem with it. My create expense button isn't working. It should be giving me an error up here because I've left that empty. So what I'm going to do now is, other Todd, he's going to go and have a look and see how we can debug this. So within Chrome, in the Sources tab, you can Control P and open up a file that's being served from the server. And you can actually see this. So this is a Lightning component, JavaScript file, and actually it's a concatenated version of the helper and the controller in a Lightning component. And this is the chunk of code that I'm interested in here, where it says my expense, if it's empty, give me an error in here, but that's not working for some reason. So what I can do is, by clicking on the numbers down the side and the margin, I can set breakpoints. And so when I run my JavaScript, my code will finish executing and give me a chance to see what's happening in here. Thank you very much. They're still clapping at the first slide. I've got that playing. Yes, my extension is empty here, so I should be coming into this if block. Right? I want to work out why this is going wrong, so I've set myself another breakpoint on the line down. Yes, excellent. That's fired as well. This means I'm getting into that if block, but something's not working. Let's test it again with a value in there and see. Make sure that this expense name is the right value for starts. Yeah, I've got SEF is in there, so I can see in here. I can see all the scope, all the variables within the scope of this argument function that I've got. And so something's wrong. And what I want to do is, when I'm testing this, I don't want to be testing it and firing when I've got a value in there. I'm trying to work out why it's not working when I don't have a value. So by right-clicking on the breakpoint, I can now add a clause within my breakpoint, say, don't fire unless this particular clause matches. In this case, it's a bit pointless, because I'm just saying, well, if expense name is false, come in here. If expense name is false, break off. Hopefully you get the idea. So I fire now with something in here. I press create expense, and it didn't hit my breakpoint. I've removed the entry from expense name now, run it again, and now I've fired my breakpoint. So that's conditional breakpoints. That's probably a bit quick, sorry. But we still don't know why my code is not showing me this error message in here. I think Todd's showing us some other bits down the bottom. I can't remember why he's doing this. It was over a year ago. But let's see if we can work out how to do this. And to be honest, I'm not very good at debugging in this little window. I like to work on my own machine, on my own files, in my own IDE. Hopefully Todd can help us get around that problem in a minute. Oh, yeah, that's it. So if you right-click on the file name at the top, you've got this map to file system resource. And if I click that, what it will do is it save that current JS file onto my local machine, so onto my local file system. So if you can switch to your Sublime editor now. Bear in mind, we're halfway through a breakpoint, right? We've stopped at a breakpoint. Here we are. So I'm now in Sublime in that same JavaScript file. And I can see it. I like this now. Oh, look. Todd, I spotted it. Look. He spelt message wrong, right? Which is not uncommon for Todd. So let's correct that now and save it. And instantly back in my Chrome, whilst the code is at a breakpoint, it's been updated. So I'm editing a Lightning component in real time on my machine that will then be rerun in the browser live. And if we, oh yeah, he has. Sorry, I missed that completely. He's clicked the button and he's got his validation error, which is what he wanted to do. So that's mapping to file system as well. You could have it so that saves and you kind of somehow use that code to push back up through Salesforce DX. But it is, bear in mind, this JavaScript file will be a culmination of your controller and your helper. I don't know how it works with Salesforce DX, whether you can, it's worth looking at, I suppose. Yeah, so you can open that in VS Code and have, I don't know, fandangled extensions and plugins running on it. What else can we do in here, Todd? Oh, okay, so I've got my new form now. So this is from the latest Lightning Trailhead. I've got a value in here. What's he going to do? I can't remember what he's going to do here. Oh, yeah, so this he's opening up the expenses.js again. And if we go down now, this is a slightly different function because it's the later one. We've got this, when I add create expense, I've got this expenses array that I'm adding the new one to. And what I want to do is during debugging, I might want to output this expenses array. So I'm just going to use a console.log here, expenses, and output expenses. Maybe I'm worried that they're not coming in or I'm losing a value somewhere. So I want to see what's in my array before I kind of set it back to the component for rendering. What we can do also in here is this console log line. I don't want it to be a permanent addition to my file at all, but I do want it to persist over reloads of the browser. So what you can do, this is brand new as well, is this enable local override. So what happens now is if I make a change in here and save it, I'm not saving it to my file system as a file to be used later on or always. In this case, I'm saving it to my file that will be used only if I tick that box. So I could put some dummy console lines in, untick it, and it won't use them. With it ticked, it will use them.
Is that just within the context of this page?
That's a really good question. It is for the it's for the domain. So if it was being called from a CDN, it might work as well. Oh, I missed that. Sorry, I went back. Let's restart this one again. Sorry. Yeah, so you could do this if you were changing CSS files, for example, and you wanted to quickly save them, but not really save them. You can kind of hijack network requests by using this local override. We'll let Todd get back to where he was again.
Sorry.
That's okay. Oh, just beer and clicker. Doesn't always work. Yeah, so I've got a console.log line in here that I didn't want to be saved really, but I do want to kind of be able to turn it on and off as I go. So I put this line in. We'll get that there. He's really slow at typing, sorry. But that's okay, right? He's going to output some expenses in the console log. Yeah, so it's going to turn on this network overrides in here. And now if I make a change and save it, it will save a copy to a kind of like temporary directory on my disk. You can see I've got a couple. I was overwriting Trailhead in London's calling just for playing with things. And yeah, the good thing is that they persist through reloads. Whereas if you made changes to CSS stylings and reload, you lose that. With overrides, you don't, which is really funky. So let's let him finish this bit. Is he going to run it? don't know what he's doing now. I think he might run it. He's going to run it. He's opened up his console window, so he's going to put some expense in, and then we'll run it and we'll see it in action. Hey, there we go. And I've got this line here now that says expenses, and then in here there's an array of 4 things that are expenses. I hope. He's going to show us. Yeah, they are expenses. That's really not good. I think it's red on black, is it? But he's got a wig, he's got a train ticket, and some refreshments. That's a normal Doug evening out for me. Sounds perfect. And I think he might now untick. Are you going to untick enable local overrides? Try again. Oh no, he's reloading, so he's showing us the persistency of how this works through reloads. So let's add another expense in here. What are we doing? Test. Oh, a bit boring, isn't it? And you see our console.log line still fires through the persistency, which you wouldn't get without these local overrides. And it's being loaded there, yeah, from my real file system. So now we're into the console tab. That was a brief on the sources. Now into the console tab. This is my favourite. It's probably a bit sad to have a favourite DevTools tab, but there we go. So I've got this console.log line up here that I was using earlier, but the way I had to expand my expenses out was a bit rubbish to see what was in them, and not too easy to read. And you can see here it's in this object that I've got to expand and dig through. So I think we can improve on this, Todd. Let's have a look. Oh, no, he's showing something else first. If you right-click on an object that's been output to the console, you can save as a global variable. And in this case, the Chrome's giving this variable called temp2. If I run temp2, it's that object, which is pretty cool. I can dig into it, and it's done by reference. So if the object updates, my temp2 will also update. I cleared the console then with Control-L. That was a bit quick, sorry. Control-L clears the console. And there's my temp2, so I expand it. You can see it was the same one as before. Yeah, he's got his wig, his train ticket, refreshments, and 1, 2, 3. So he was showing us, what was he showing us? Oh yeah, also $_. $_ gives us the last value that was output into the console window. So $_ was my expenses, and if I do a var a equals true, that returns undefined. So if I $_ gives me undefined, but if I then do an a, it gives me true, and then if I do $_ now, I get true back. So it's kind of consistently following the last thing that was evaluated on the command line. Yeah, I don't think I've ever used that, but hopefully you didn't know it, so that counts towards my score. What else can we do, Todd? Let's have a look. Oh, $$. This is very cool, right? So I've got these input boxes down here on my form, and if I do $$, I can put in there some argument, some attribute, some markup tag, and it will give me an array of all of those matching elements in my node tree. So in this case, I've got, actually, how many have I got? Inputs? There were hundreds, but an expandable list of inputs that will come from my form. This might be how Lightning Locker Service works. Maybe I'll try this on Sunday, see if I can get in. We have all these extra input boxes that don't appear in my actual HTML or in my rendered view, visible view. So yeah, $$ input. So you could do $$ div, $$ class X, Y, Z, and it will give you an array of what's in that markup. So that's quite handy. Now we get back to where I thought we were going to be, was changing this console.log to something more readable, because an expandable array object in the console isn't too nice if you're trying to debug. Or maybe someone's snooping on your code and you want them to see, oh, he cares about the people looking at his code, what might be output. So I'm going to do a console.table now instead of console.log. Let's create an expense. And now we get this thing of beauty. So this is the array, but it's put in tabular form, and actually it's sortable as well, which is really handy. So you can click on the columns in here and it will sort it. That's quite smart. What other console bits can we do, Todd? We're going to add some more stuff in this create expense function, just to prove or push console to its kind of limits. I put a console.log, state equals success, so I know where I am. And then also I'm going to put a console.trace. This is something that I didn't realise before. If I do console.trace, I can give it a name as well, I think, in there. Let's call it stack. Oh, brilliant, I got that right. If I now run through this, I'm going to get a lot more stuff out of my console that will hopefully be useful if you're doing debugging. Possibly not if you're building for production. You can remove all these things. So I'll put another expense in and we'll see what comes out this time. Pizza, 123 quid a new. Jeez, that's a lot of pizza. So we have the tables down here, but I also have this collapsible stack trace now, which if you're not in Aura, looks a lot more useful. If you're running in Lightning, you basically get Aura bundle, your one line of code. I don't know, it disappears a little bit. But you get a collapsible stack trace that might help you reference where you're coming from in your code. What I've done now, though, really is I've polluted my console logs with all these console traces that are really specific to this create expense function. I want to clean it up a little bit. So what I can do is do a console.group, create expense, and then I have all my console.log.table.stack inside, and I'm going to end it off with a console.group end. And I give it a key, a name in here. Create expense, that's it. And return. And then we're going to add another expense now. What are we going to do this time? After drinks. I like the way Todd thinks. I was only spending 10 quid, sorry, that's not enough for everyone. But what's happened now in my console logs, I've now got a collapsible create expense section, which is kind of handy if you don't want your logs to be polluted with loads of stuff, but you want the information in there. And in fact, you can do a console.group collapsed, which by default collapses it, so it's not expanded by default. Yeah, that's great. I think we've got one more thing to put in here, which is if you're trying to debug a scenario, let's say you've got a branch of code which is for failures only, or I don't know, yeah, you only want a console log to fire when something's gone horribly wrong. We can actually do console.assert, and then you give it a condition, and then the output of whatever you want to output at the time. So in here I'm saying only log if expenses is greater than 5 with an error, too many expenses. Let's do another expense here. Todd ran out of imaginative things for his expense form. FFFG. He was bored. But you can see down the bottom here, I've now got 7 expenses listed, and I've got an assertion line that's come out that says, right, too many expenses here. I think that's where we are with the base console pieces. There are a couple of bits in here I think that are a bit more fun. Yeah, if people are looking at your code, what you can do is you can actually style your console output, make them a bit more exciting. So I've defined some styles in a snippet that I've just run. Now I'm going to do a console.log, or Todd is going to do a console.log, $C to reference that variable within his console log line, and then Hulk smash, and then pass in the second argument, which would be the variables. Hey, styled console output. I mean, if someone was looking at your code, you don't want people digging around. Yeah, I know you're watching me, son. Something like that. And because my boss is here, so I thought I'd end with something just to make sure my next pay review goes well. It's only fair, right? How about that? I'm not kidding. We've got a console log line with a background image. We've got another image in. We've got border radius. I mean, if lightning looked like this, come on, we'd be real happy. So that's the console tab. There aren't really any other default tabs in there that I wanted to explain today, but there is a Lightning extension tab that you can get if you install the Lightning developer extension, Chrome extension thing. So let's have a look at this now. Oh, they don't have a dark mode for starts. But I do get a component tree with loads of stuff in. I've got to be honest with you, I haven't really used this, but it's there and it's full of stuff. Right? This could be useful. I don't know. It does have, this is useful, performance trees. You can see if you're, messing stuff up. You're in a crazy loop of pane. This would appear kind of in here. That's quite handy. You also see your transactions for that page load. So you can see I have 2 expenses or 2 save expense calls that I made. And what's really nice actually in the actions one is you can dig into these and see a recording of the values that were sent up and down. So here's an expense. Todd got bored, another expense. But you also get, which is really cool, the response back. So you can see I've got my Salesforce ID in there. That's quite handy, I think. I don't know the value of the other pieces. Like I said, haven't really looked at them yet. But that's the Lightning extensions tab. These are some references. Don't worry about taking down, they'll all be online. But Remy Sharp, he's a JS guru. You should follow his blog anyway. And yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, any questions at all? Hopefully you learned something. Yes?
That override function, is that only related to that session of the browser? If I close and reopen, will it override?
No, yeah, it's persistent. So what happens is when you have it ticked, helpfully in the network tab you get like a little warning sign, because you could, imagine the hours you could lose if you set it to override, then you've completely forgotten about it and you keep getting, it's worse than the app cache not clearing when you're doing Lightning Dev, right? If you're persistently doing it. But yeah, it would persist through sessions. In fact, I've used it. I don't know who's used Skype web client. They've just got some really poor CSS in there, so I've written one just to make sure I can see the text chat because it's rubbish. So yeah, it's persistent through sessions. It's pretty good. Yeah.
What tool did you use for the presentation?
This is reveal.js. Yeah, it's really cool. So it's a JavaScript thing. So this is just an HTML page. Yeah, it's fancy, isn't it?
Did you build your presentation?
Did I build it?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a GitHub repo, so you download it and then you just change the index to HTML with things. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? It's full screen video. It's just nice. And GIFs. Which are GIFs, I like it. And a unicorn. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Thanks very much. Cheers.